That's guaranteed. And we are very, very pleased that you're all here to join us for what for the College of Education is the first of our alumni speaker series that we're going to be beginning throughout the year, hoping to have at least 2 alumni speakers come in to the university. And we're very, very pleased that our first alumni speaker series would be in partnership with the Eccles School of Business. And I want to thank Dean Taylor Randall. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think the match is really a very interesting one because, and I'll tell you a little bit more about Marilyn in just a minute, but her bachelor's degree, and I'll make sure I'll say this correctly, is in marketing from the Eccles School of Business, and her master's degree is in education. Before I do my formal introduction, though, again, I want to thank the Eccles School of Business for partnering with us. I also want to welcome some special guests. Grace Pearl, Marilyn's mother, is here this afternoon. And I believe you have some other family as well, right?
My sister's here.
Your sister's here, Anne? It's great. Welcome. It's great to have you here. And we want to express thanks to those who have really helped organize all of this and put it together. Rob Hunsaker, our Director of Development in the College of Education, Heidi Woodbury, and I don't see, there she is, right there. And also Chris Bozeman. You're there? Great. And she's not here, but we really do have to thank Marilyn's assistant, Katie Muldoon, for all of the coordination and organization that she's put into this. So, and a special thanks to Josh Grant. And where's Josh? There he is, who actually was the first to bring us together, both the College of Education and the School of Business, in terms of reconnecting with Marilyn as an alumnus of our college. So welcome. So let me tell you a little bit about Marilyn, and the way we're going to do this is she's going to do a presentation and then take questions, just open questions from the group that's here today. And I want to first also say thank you for her willingness to come. As a major executive, you can imagine how valuable her time is. She is currently the president of 3. That's 3 major resorts and casinos in Las Vegas, and the 3 are Bally's, the Paris, and Planet Hollywood. And she, and formerly also of the Rio as well. She received again her 2 degrees, the bachelor's degree from the University of Utah in business, and her Master of Education degree from the College of Education. And when I had a chance to visit and spend some time with Marilyn, it's very interesting because you also, I think, did some teaching at Weber State and worked at the state office. And then, of course, we lost her completely in education as she moved into the private sector, and from there to her major executive position with Bally's, Paris, and Planet Hollywood, which is part of Harrah's Entertainment. And if you don't know anything about Harrah's Entertainment, I'm going to tell you a little bit. It is the world's preeminent distributor of casino entertainment, 40 properties under Harrah's in 12 states and four countries. And Marilyn's position in Las Vegas as president, she is president of 3 major hotels and casinos. She's responsible for overseeing the day-to-day operations of all 3 properties. And we were talking at lunch how she has to move to each of those hotels on a regular daily basis. So I think you're probably trying to get to every one of those hotels at least once during the day. The 3 resorts include a combined total of 9,000 employees, over 400,000 square feet of convention space, 8,000 guest rooms, and 3 large gaming casinos. So I don't want to take any more time. I could go on and on in terms of introducing her. And again, we thank her for taking the time to be with us this afternoon. And ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to introduce you to, what's that?
Make sure she's mic'd up so we get this recorded.
Okay, Rob's worried that she mic'd up. Okay, so she's mic'd up, Rob. Guaranteed. Now, she won't be using a mic, okay? This mic is for the podcast, which, by the way, thank you for reminding me. This will be is being recorded as video. We converted the podcast and will be available on the College of Ed website. Don't know whether you plan to. You're going to have a website. So we're not going to worry about the School of Business, so we'll just put it on our website, and you can just call Taylor directly if you want to get a copy of the video. Okay, so I'm going to switch this over. I've got to switch this mic off over to you. And ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to introduce you to Marilyn Wynn.
Nice to put it.
You know?
I wore a dress. We're talking about women, so I wore a dress. And so where are you going to put that, huh?
This is out of my realm. Way out of my realm.
There you go. I'll put on my jacket. How's that?
That'll
But I don't think there are no pockets that work. Mike, I mean, we got a problem here.
Well, I could hold it if you don't.
No, that's
move.
okay. Here we go. Here we go.
Does this have a clip? It doesn't even have a clip.
I don't have anything to clip to.
Wait a minute, there's a clip. A little clip.
Where are you going to clip? You better help him.
You have no place to clip.
No, I'm good.
I may suggest
Oh, here we
people
go.
clip it back here.
How about this? Is this good?
If that looks okay for you.
Well, it probably doesn't look okay, but yeah, but thank you.
back here.
Where do you want to put it back there? Okay. Holy smokes, I'm going to be weighted down here.
How's that feel?
It feels like I've got some kind of the weight of the world on my back. But you know what? How about if I hold it? I'm happy to hold it.
Okay, okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
Merci. Merci.
You're on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Marilyn.
Thank you all. I'm going to stand back here just a little bit so I can, and I'll hold it right here. How's that? That's very good. It's great to see all of you here. And actually, as I was coming up to the campus today, it has been over 30 years since I have been here. And so I had a couple memories that came through that in about, I think, 1973, when you had to register for classes for like winter quarter, because we were on quarters, we stood outside. You don't do that anymore, right? Yeah, like you're thinking, what university does that? Or actually, in the larger business building behind, when I saw it, it brought back some bad memories about having to punch my own Fortran cards. And you probably don't even know what Fortran is, yes? You did? Okay, that's good. There was like a yes. And then when I tried to get into the parking space, and actually Dean Taylor, Randall, and Hartman came and they saw me, and we were talking about parking, and they did assure me that you still have as big a trouble as I did for a 745 class. Is that right? No, yeah, it's good, okay? But when I came here, it was $160 a quarter. And so obviously it was a very, very long time ago. And I'm delighted I'm here to have the chance to speak to all of you. What I thought I would talk about to make things interesting, I hope for you and also for me, is a little bit about the progression that I had, because this request really made me put into perspective both my business degree and my education degree. And so I want to kind of take a walk down memory lane in terms of my career path and where I've been, and also then throw in a piece where it was appropriate about being female, because there are a lot of women in this class. And I remember, you guys must be in the education school, right? No, who's in the business school? Oh my gosh, that's great. So let me begin. I graduated December of 1974, and I graduated with the Bachelor's of Science in Marketing. And I was an instructor, an educational writer. I wrote educational materials for the State Board of Education, as Mike mentioned, and that parlayed into a job of being an instructor at Weber State College. Okay, it was a college then. And I taught fashion merchandising. And what was so great about teaching fashion merchandising is that it allowed me to really hone my leadership skills. And you may say, how is that possible? Because I had 18 to 20-year-old females who wanted to, at that time, likely came to Weber State looking for a guy, but nevertheless, they were in my retail merchandising class. And so when I had the opportunity to teach how to put on a fashion show, for example, we had to use leadership. We had to think about the vision of what were we going to create. And I had to inspire these young folks to figure out what was the show going to look like. And so leadership is a whole bunch about vision, and it's also about inspiration, that there's somehow a connection that you and I have that you're going to believe where I want to take you. That's what leadership is. And so then I had to use all the planning and organizing skills. So where's the music and where's the clothes and who's going first and who's going second. But the beauty of that was that it was my first time to try out leadership. And I have to say, it was a very low-risk environment because I was older than those 18 and 20-year-old folks that I was teaching. And it gave me a chance to perfect, at least at that time, what I thought was perfect, how I gave feedback. And how, when you give someone feedback and you reinforce the positive and have them change some of the behaviors you want to have change, how powerful that is. And frankly, feedback, as Ken Blanchard says, is the breakfast of champions. And so using that at that particular time in a low-risk environment set me somewhat on the path to success. And so as in education, I think this is the same today. If you want to get paid more, you got to have more years of education, right? And so I got a sabbatical leave from Weber State, and I tried out going down to the Arizona University, ASU, Arizona State University. I was working on my doctorate in marketing because I thought it was pretty cool. How do people buy stuff, and why do they buy stuff? And I seem to buy a lot of stuff, and I want to know more about that. And so I was a teaching assistant down there because at that time I thought I was going to be in education forever because I thought the professor's life was a good one. And I still think that the professor's life is a good one and a noble one. And so I was a lousy doctoral student, and I got headhunted away because I had a hard time. I felt like an indentured servant because I'd teach these classes and they didn't pay any money. And so I got headhunted away, and I started my first career in private enterprise. And so I worked for a store, in a department store chain in Denver, and then I got headhunted away and I worked in one in New York City, and eventually had my daughter and moved to Las Vegas, actually. But it was through those times at those department stores, because I had taught, that I used those leadership skills and also my management skills to figure out how to create a course guide. And so if you were at my department store and you were an assistant buyer or a department manager or an assistant store buyer, we had a course curriculum, just like you have. And we had a bunch of different courses that you would have to go through, and you'd be certified, and you'd be promoted based upon that. And again, it was an opportunity to talk about leadership and management. And because retail was a predominantly female kind of organization for assistant buyers and department managers, again, it was a low-risk environment. And it really helped in terms of honing those kinds of skills. Well, moved to Las Vegas. And so I answered an ad in the newspaper. I am the least expensive recruit Harrah's Entertainment has ever had for a president, because I answered a $50 ad in the newspaper to be the director of training. And again, it was my past education background, which is somewhat interesting when you think about what you've learned here in class and you think you'll never have to apply it, how over the years you end up figuring out how to apply it, and you're grateful for it. So my background led me to be the training director, and I was there for about a year, and I was promoted. Harrah's is a great company, and as a matter of fact, just a little aside, these little raffle tickets that you have here, I work in gaming, right? And so we'll have, I was told not to call it a raffle, but we're going to have a free award. So at the end of the presentation, I want to be sure that, if you came here, you should get something back from it, unless they paid you to come. So we'll pull something for a 2-night, 3-day stay in one of my hotels, if that's okay with you. Is that good? You don't even have to remember what I say, but we're going to do that, okay? So anyway, I get promoted, and I become the director of cashiering and credit. Now, have any of you ever worked in a casino? Okay, so the cage, it's called the cage, which is kind of a weird name for it, but it's like the bank. It's where all the money comes into the casino, and we approved all the credit, and we collect all the all the checks that go bad or all the markers that people write. And every day there were about 50 folks on the front line who were like tellers. They had to balance to a $60,000 imprest fund every day. And so the stress of when you push the button, you needed it to all come up when you added up everything to be that 60,000, or you were ending up being short. And so again, it was somewhat of a low-risk environment because most of people in cashiering were female. And so in almost all those positions, I mostly had women to deal with. But as you think about the cage, and it was like accounting oriented. As Mike said, I was a marketing major. We had to take 3 accounting classes. You may have to take more today. 3 accounting classes, which I did okay, but I mean, the way I got through being in the cage was debits are downers, credits are parties, right? That's what it worked for me. Or gap. I mean, I didn't really understand a whole bunch about gap, but here it was, all the money in the casino. And we would have $8 million on property at any particular time, because at that time, slot machines had money in them. And today, slot machines are all electronic computers, and so they don't necessarily have that. But I show up at the cage, and the first day I get named to be the cage director, I have a visit from people in internal audit. And these internal auditors come to tell me that we failed in a variety of different mix. Okay, part of me is Irish. I was thinking that there was some kind of serious Irish kind of problem that we had. But a MIC, you may know, is a minimum internal control standard, right? And I didn't even know what they were talking about. The next day, we had a sting by the Gaming Control Board, because we had you have a money laundering rule in Las Vegas. You have to remember how Las Vegas started. And so the Gaming Control Board has all sorts of rules about money laundering and appropriateness and not dealing with organized crime. And so the next day, some guy comes and he exchanges more than $3,000, dollar for dollar. And that is a major gaming violation, because that's how you can launder money. So we get fined $85,000. So in the first week, I had a problem with internal audit, and we cost the company 85 grand. Obviously had a huge leadership issue. And so we had to rally people, and mostly females, such that we had to learn. We had to have a vision, and the vision was we had to have accuracy. Because if you screw up on Gaming Control Board issues, you're going to get fined. And the first fine starts at 80 or whatever, and then it goes up to hundreds of thousands of dollars. So again, the vision, what is it that you want to accomplish? What does success look like? As well as the inspiration to get people all online. So imagine, I had people from 22 probably to 70 who worked for us, and we had to figure out a way to make things fun. And that's one of the key pieces, that wherever it is that you're going to go out to, if it's going to be in a classroom, if it's going to be in a private business and you're making money for profit, you've got to figure out ways to make people want to follow you. And clearly, I think the way to do that is to make it fun and interesting. Fast forward, 1997, I get my first big break. Now, if you don't know that in 1997, there were no female general managers on the Las Vegas Strip. That's just something that this is a guy's kind of business. And yet, I get promoted to be the general manager for our Shreveport Harrah's Casino. So a couple things about Shreveport. You're laughing. Who's from Shreveport? Anybody from Shreveport? You're from... Okay, so you know. All right, Shreveport, Northwest Louisiana. Gaming was approved in 1994. Shreveport is a place where the oil money in the 80s kind of passed by. Huge unemployment, 75% African American, very low educational levels. I mean, we came in as a company and we promised a lot of stuff. We would promise employment, and we would promise upward promotion for all races. We promised a bunch of money to the state. We would pay 20% of our gaming revenues to the state for tax money. That's why they don't, most states don't bring in gaming because the state's doing so well. They bring in gaming when they need to raise tax money. And so we promised employment, we promised purchasing requirements in terms of working with minority firms to build up the infrastructure in the city, and we promised investment in terms of capital structure as well as our gaming revenues. So I was the second general manager to show up. And the first guy, our company is named after Bill Harrah. And the guy I followed, who is a wonderful person. I worked together with him at Harrah's Las Vegas. And they used to, even though his name was Anthony Sanfilippo, they honestly thought his name was Bill Harrah because he did so many wonderful things for the city, very involved. And so I show up, and being a female, this is the first time, frankly, in the business, I thought being a female was so important because I was so different from him. I looked different, I acted different, I spoke differently. He was from Texas, and I'm not. And so all those different reasons helped me actually differentiate me from him. Now in Shreveport, we had 4 riverboats. And so Harrah's had this little boat. And in Louisiana, they publish all your revenues. So it's like getting your report card every month in the newspaper so you can see who was number 1 and who wasn't number 1. And the first 6 months, we were number 1 twice, which I thought was enormously successful until they brought in across the river, the Horseshoe brought in a brand new boat called King of the Red. Now this boat, my little boat, had 1,200 slot machines and 40 table games. We had no poker, we had no racing sports, we had no keno. And because in Louisiana, people, they must believe you can only gamble on water. You had to be on a riverboat or a barge, okay? So there's no land-based casinos like there are in Las Vegas. There is today in New Orleans, but that wasn't there at the time. And so we had these 4 riverboats, and the Horseshoe came in. And for those of you who are studying in business, I mean, here's the competitor that came in, and I was, 40% of the time I was doing pretty darn well. He brings a superior product into the market. How do you compete? And so it was really my first opportunity being the GM in Shreveport to combine critical skills of finance and marketing and human resources and operations. And so what we tried to do, using some marketing skills, is to say, what do we have that they don't have? Because we have a little tiny boat, and they've got this beautiful place, but what we had was Harrah's distribution system. And so one of the ways we tried to compete effectively with them was to say, this distribution system is, we can send you to Las Vegas. Just like I'll give you a trip to Las Vegas, I won't send you, but right now we're using the same system here, where people wanted to go to Las Vegas. Because frankly, the demand for gaming in this country is greater than the supply. And that was something that Jack Binion, who was born and raised in Texas and had a huge following, didn't have. So we learned to compete effectively, and we had this vision of, like the little engine that could, that we were going to be in Shreveport and we were going to, slay the big Goliath over there. So that was one of the first times. In addition, we used some leadership skills in terms of building a hotel. All we had was a riverboat, and we had a buffet, and so we had something called a virtual hotel in Shreveport. It was the Best Western, if you can only imagine. So all these great big places that people have to stay, we had the Best Western, and so we would hold a block of rooms, and sooner or later we decided, we just can't compete effectively on that. And the EBITDA that was coming in on this riverboat was great, so we built this hotel. And having the opportunity to think about building a hotel, and not necessarily that I was going to be the architect or anything such as that, but looking out for the customer. Thinking about how do you build something in a way that the hotel room is right and the front desk is right, and how does valet go? It's so critical in whatever business you go in that somebody has to be the head of the customer. They have to figure out what people want and how do they go ahead and create something that's really a great product. Final story in Shreveport is something that really was just common sense. It was about operations. My riverboat lived in what they call a coffer cell, and we lived on the Red River. And so the Red River in the spring would rise because it came down from Fargo, North Dakota, all the runoff that was coming in, and our boat lived in a coffer cell. And so when the water would rise, the water would come over the coffer cell and the boat would rise. Now you may not know that you need to have 12 feet of length for every 1 foot of rise by the fire department, so that there was a fire, you could get out okay. And so my boat was like way at the very top, and you had to walk a plank to get onto the boat. That's the way it's still done, frankly, unless you're on a barge. And so we ended up, I'd look at this every day, because if the fire department was going to shut us down, you had to have some ingenuity on how to make things right. So we ended up building this plank that started in the parking lot And you would walk on the parking lot probably 80 feet to get onto the riverboat, or else we were going to end up having to close down the boat, impact people's jobs, impact the state revenue. So, where do you learn in school how you manage Mother Nature? And frankly, you don't, but you're going to have to use some ingenuity and some leadership as we were rallying people around. So that's my Shreveport stories. What I think about getting out of Shreveport, my next position was to be the SVP of Human Resources for the company. And so when you're in charge of human resources for an entire company, Harrah's had at that time 40,000 employees, there are a couple things that you're in charge of. You, first off, are the advisor to the CEO. And so you're the person who kind of bears the ethical integrity of the business. And you're the person who likely delivers good news, but also a lot bad news. So you'd be the person who delivers news such as a high-level executive was being accused of harassment. You'd be the person who finds out that an executive padded their expense account, or someone had problems in drinking, or whatever else it may be. And so having the ability to deliver that bad news, one, it's a skill that you develop, but two, it's also another place where I thought being female was really helpful. Most CEOs in American business are guys, right? And so having somebody who is going to be an advisor and who can advise them in a way that is less competitive worked for me. I think that that's not necessarily indication of one gender is one way and another is different, but it's critically important that you deliver news that's bad in a way that's clean. And so I, for whatever reason, either through my ability of learning feedback, through teaching, or the responsibilities that I had, helped me deliver that bad news in a clean way. In that job, I also negotiate our collective bargaining agreements. And if you've ever, it's kind of like the guys at GM and Ford as they're fighting the UAW, and you've seen that on the news, and you saw that recently, the financial difficulties in all the automakers. Being female also was an advantage because you were different and you had a different way that you could speak. You didn't need to come in such a forceful, bombastic manner that most labor attorneys come in. You could be different, and you could be heard somewhat in a different way. Third type of memory I have of being the SVP of Human Resources was rolling out our service initiatives. Harrah's is a company that differentiates itself based upon service. And so the leadership required to distribute that to all the properties was a big responsibility. And so maybe in school you study something called the service profit chain. Any of you heard of that? Service profit chain? It's about how you think about internal service quality. So if you as an employee have a really good quality of work life, we've hired you right, we trained you right, we give you all the skills and tools that you need to do the job, it is likely that you will be a satisfied employee, meaning that you will be connected to our vision of our company and you'll want to go out and serve guests well. And so if you have an engaged workforce, you then can produce a quality product or service that in turn gives you satisfied customers and it leads to profit. So our job, my job specifically, was to ensure that our internal service quality was good. And that would mean, how do we hire people? How do we train people with all sorts of shoppers, secret shoppers? We do that all the time. And in terms of reinforcement, again, the quality of feedback, how critically important that's going to be to your own career as you go forward and as you develop either in the classroom or in business. And then also the celebration of successes, which I think that, frankly, we don't do enough of. So fast forward to today. As Mike said, I have $900 million in revenue that comes under my 3 hotels. We have 8,200 hotel rooms. I have 8,000 employees, and my little properties are south of Flamingo Road on the east side of the street. So you see Bally's, and you've seen Paris, and you've seen Planet Hollywood. So show of hands, anybody been to any of those? Oh my God, wow. This is the right place to come, okay. So when you go there to have fun, right? But the quality or the work that goes on behind the scenes is critically important. And so I wanted to share with you just what I do, like during the day, and how today I demonstrate leadership, because there's some big responsibilities. In terms of EBITDA, I'm responsible. I think about the revenues all the time, and I think about the costs all the time. And in this day and age when people aren't very forthcoming on revenues, they're not spending as much as they used to, you know, it's difficult to control costs. I think about all the time product and service delivery. And so I am sure there is somebody in those hands who said they have, who will relate a great time that they had. And I'm also sure that there's somebody who says this was not everything I thought it should be. So the difficulty in producing a service day in and day out with consistency that delights customers is challenging. You know, it's a lot easier, in my opinion, to be on an assembly line and producing something that, you know, no personality was included in the car, okay? The car is the car. And then a third responsibility, engaging employees to give out discretionary effort. We talk a lot in my business about discretionary effort. You all know what it is. You come to school and you do X to get whatever grade it is that you want to get. But you know that you could have learned it more if you wanted to, or you know if you already have learned it a whole bunch more than you wanted to. It's that discretionary effort that you bring to the job more than what it is that you have to do. And then lastly, you know, operating. I have to be sure that we operate within the Nevada gaming rules and regulations, and also more stringently the Harrah's entertainment rules and regulations, because our company is highly regulated, but we have our own internal code of commitment that we make sure that we think about. So when I think about EBITDA and we think about revenue centers, these are, in a casino, there are a variety of revenue centers. There's gaming, which has to do with slots and tables and race and sports and keno and poker. So all the gaming revenues come in. And for Harrah's, that typically is about 65 to 70% of all of our revenue. And then we have hotel revenue coming in. And so you have all those rooms that somebody's coming through. And then you have food and beverage revenue. And you have other revenue, which could be theaters or nightclubs or retail organizations. So what we do all the time, because Harrah's is a company that believes strongly in decision science, we have real-time data on everybody who's been there. So because a bunch of you look like you're under 21, I'm not going to ask you how many of you have a Total Rewards card, because I'm hoping you don't, because if you do, I'm in trouble. But this little card that you get when you're over 21, that you put into the slot machines or you give to the table games person, tracks everything you do. And likewise, when you buy a hotel room, we will give you a return, some kind of reward, credits, on your hotel room. And we do it the same way for your food and beverage. And you have to say, well, man, it sounds like a good deal. It's a good deal for you, but it's a good deal for me. Because with information, I can find out so many things. I can figure out how to market to you. I can figure out what works and what doesn't, and I can get rid of the stuff that doesn't work, and I can spend more on the stuff that does work so that I can be better than my competitors. When you think about our hotel, any of you who are thinking about science, it is such a science today. I mean, when you go traveling, how many of you look first thing on Expedia? People do. And so I'm glad you don't. I'm glad maybe you just call the Harrah's website. That would even be better, more profitable for us. But as you think about the hotel rooms in a casino are segmented. So we have gaming rooms, and for gaming, we either send you a special event or a reduced rate, or you have a host and you may call up, or you have a Total Rewards card and we give you a different rate. Or we will have regular travelers that just pick up the phone and call. Let me just say that is the way companies like it the best. That probably will cost you the most in terms of your hotel. We have wholesale, so you can have Mark Travel, huge business with Mark Travel, Southwest Airlines coming in. And then we have third-party operators like Expedia or Travelocity or Orbitz. We also have convention business. All those things are really important to us because the people in the hotel spend 2/3 of everything that they bring to Las Vegas in that hotel. So there's a war trying to make sure that you are going to be in that hotel. So one of the ways we're thinking about revenue right now is if you come to Las Vegas, before the end of the year, we have something called the Buffet of Buffets. Have any of you seen it? The Buffet of Buffets means that for $39.99 with your Total Rewards card, so bring your parents or somebody else who's over 21, with your Total Rewards card, you can eat in every buffet I have all day long. And I have like 8 buffets. So imagine $39.99. How you're saying, well, so how do you steal from the competitors? Because my competitors, MGM and Wynn and Las Vegas Sands, they don't work together. We do. When we think about revenue, we figure out how do we cooperate with our 8 properties. And so you can have breakfast at the Planet Hollywood Buffet, and you can have lunch at the Rio and the Carnival World Buffet, and you can have dinner at the Harrah's Flavors Buffet, and you can actually go in and have another snack. And obviously, this has caused a huge number of people to come to the Harrah's properties because we advertise it on these mobile billboards. So if you've been to Las Vegas, you can see what's going up and down the strip, right? And because I get a whole new crop of you every 4 days, rather than advertising in local papers or advertising in the outer markets, I'm going to advertise on the strip because that's where you are. Fish where the fish are. And so we have, on an average day, I will sell maybe 1,800 covers to the Planet Hollywood Buffet, and another 1,600 people will show up who bought it someplace else, and they end up coming to our buffet because they're moving around. It's a cool idea. We're going to launch it for entertainment coming up in the next month so that you can come in and buy a pass, and you're going to be able to see as many shows as you want to see. So what am I trying to do? When I think about revenues, I'm trying to cocoon you into my places. And as long as I don't care if you go to Caesars, I don't care if you go to Harrah's or Planet Hollywood or Paris, I just don't want you going to Bellagio and MGM and all those other places, which frankly, I don't go anyway. So, secondly, if I think about revenues, I also need to think about costs. This has been an excruciatingly difficult time for costs. And we probably have had 20% of our workforce that we've had to lay off. And well, why? Because 20% of my revenues are gone. And so my job is to deliver the money. I have to, that's the only reason I'm there, that the management puts me there to deliver what the EBITDA goals are. And so when I think about how do we do that, we have shared cost centers every place. So planning analysis, marketing, employment, all those things are shared by all 8 properties. You can't do that if you don't cooperate. And our competitors don't. And so for us, it's a competitive advantage on the cost side. We also are doing tons of total quality work. So any of you who are studying total quality work on how to get things done faster, more efficiently, with fewer people, we're doing that every day. And so we do Kaizens, we use the lean tools, and what we find is it's amazing how the quality of customer service improves when 4 or 5 frontline employees are matched with supervisors or managers, and they come in and they look at a problem. Silly things, like in the kitchens where we have a common commissary. The potatoes are delivered over there and the potato peelers over here, and some poor guy all day long picks up potatoes and drops them off over here, and no one ever said, move the potato peeler. Now that seems absurd today, but that's what happens in business. Or in valet, where we used to have people go one way, and so we spent so much time trying to talk to customers about how to get out onto the strip, we ended up figuring out, put them the other way, and the strip is right in front of us. So we have tons of different opportunities to remove waste. Matter of fact, with these techniques in 2 years, we have pulled out $20 million in waste. That's mostly people, so unfortunately jobs, but it's also purchasing. It's also hoarding behaviors. You'll find that people will have tons of forms that they never ever needed all of those, and by the time they'd ever get through them, they change the form. So you have a lot of money in that kind of waste. Finally, I spend a lot of time on employee engagement, and in our business, it's monotonous. You're going to find that a lot of jobs, when you get out of school, they're monotonous, be it the classroom or it's or any kind of position that you're going to have in business. And so we do a bunch of stuff to keep things fun. because you didn't come to a casino to have a bad time. You came to a casino to have a good time. And so we do every Friday a rally. And every department takes a turn, and they run the rally. So a couple weeks ago, we were doing the Waka Waka to Shakira's soccer, world soccer thing. You guys are looking at me like you don't know the Waka Waka. Okay, so we did that. And so the employees get involved and engaged, and it gives us an opportunity to have fun. And so as I think about this, because I want to be sure you have an opportunity if there's some questions that you could ask, it is a remarkable opportunity to work in a casino. And either you're here because you're trying to figure out what you want to do, or you're here because you're preparing people to figure out how to have a productive life. The kinds of things that I get to do are amazing. I have a job every day that is so much fun. I get to hang out with sometimes celebrities, if Barry Manilow's your celebrity, or if it's Prince who's your celebrity, had opportunities to do that. But what was so amazing is, as I reflected on what to say, to think about where you get your start and the kinds of coursework that you have. And the bottom line is, you frankly will never know what you need until you are standing up in front of some group sometime, and you're going to say, holy smokes, like debits or doubters, credits or parties, whatever little thing that it is you had, it's going to come back to you. I could tell you tons of things I wish I'd paid more attention to at school, but it's what you get here at the University of Utah is a phenomenal thing, and I really appreciate your attention as I'm talking, and I'm hoping that you have some questions that I could answer for you. Yes?
Marilyn, throughout your speech, you mentioned the acronym EBITDA
Uh-huh.
5 times. For the benefit of the education majors in the room, could you define that?
Sure. It's it's earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, and so it represents your cash flow. And so if you add back your depreciation, it's how much money that came in the door, and it's really now you're going to ask me about my GAAP, so there's probably some accounting guy in here, but it's really your cash flows, and we're all measured on that consistently, so it helps comparing companies together. And so for us, in our bonus strategies, we have to achieve a certain EBITDA, and if you listen to CNBC, you'll hear EBITDA announced all the time, but it's your cash flow. So after you got your revenues and you take out most of your expenses. Yes?
You spoke a lot about the benefits of being a female in a male-dominated area. What kind of difficulties did you face?
When I thought about, what do I say about being female? I honestly believe that people who think there's a glass ceiling, they've made it for themselves. Because especially today, if you think that my role models were all men, right? Because, I get out of school in the 70s and I'm working through the 80s, and you look around and everybody in key positions was a guy. And so you learn from people. And through Harrah's, I never experienced it. Sometimes my competitors will think I'm the secretary, I suppose. That's happened in the past. And it depends on how you respond to that, I think. Because putting somebody down and, saying, excuse me, I'm the president, that gets you nowhere. It gets you nowhere because sooner or later they figured out you were the president, and you didn't have to say anything to them. And so I would say if you honestly believe, now maybe it's just I'm lucky and I work for a great company, and I do believe that, but I think it's how you set it up. If you want to come in and you want to dress provocatively, if you want to come in and talk about what happened at home last night, or you're dating the greatest guy in the world, everybody's going to want to listen to all that stuff, all that personal stuff. That has no place in the business world. And so I have always been extremely private. And when we're here, we're going to have a good time, but we're not necessarily going to be talking a whole bunch about, your deepest, darkest secrets. I don't think there's a place for that in the workforce. And so therefore, for me, it was never an issue. Yes?
My question was about, you talked a little bit about the economic downturn that we're in right now and having to lay off employees. How have you used your leadership skills in that sense, especially this being such a long-term thing where it's, we don't really know when it's going to end and it has impacted Las Vegas very much.
Immensely. We have almost 15% unemployment in Las Vegas. And it is, you are laying off people so that you can preserve the 80%. And that may be Darwinian. And unfortunately, because of sometimes labor unions and the rules of layoff and termination, you don't get to lay off the person you wanted to lay off. You have to follow the rules. But your leadership is about giving people courage. And it is really hard to look somebody in the face who has done everything you ask them to do, but they're the last one in. And you have to, I don't have many of those conversations myself because I only have about 12 folks that report up to me directly. But when we talk about we're going to eliminate a department, we're going to change the way we do business. I mean, you are impacting people's lives and their kids and it's terrible. But you have to, so we give them some skills, do it quick, have an outsourcing, outplacement firm available, but it's about preserving what you can preserve. There's just no good way to do it. And frankly, if you ever have to do it and you feel like it's a cool thing or it's not a big deal to you, you need to get out of what you're doing. Because I can't imagine you'd be very inspirational because you can't connect. You've got to connect with the folks that are working for you. And so it should hurt you if you have to lay somebody off. Yes?
I was interested in some of the early things you said about having a job and being in a real African-American environment. How does diversity play out in this industry? And positively, what does management do to try to meet the needs of culture and language of populations they're not only hiring, but also wanting to come into their business to play?
Yeah, that's a great question because, in Shreveport, it was all about race, okay? There were 75% African Americans and then there were white. That's it. And yet, I think that since 1997, our ideas of diversity have grown. And so one of the things we require, everyone at Harrah's goes through a diversity course, every supervisor or manager. But our focus on diversity, if you want to talk only, we have an African American president. So we have moved light years from where it was when I was in school. But diversity is not about only the color of your skin. It is about how you think. It is about how do you form a group of people around you who have different ideas and thoughts that will get you to a better decision. And I think that that's why it's so important in schools when we hire AAs, almost every one of them talks about their education had to do with groups. Oh my God, I had to work in this group. And I didn't like this person because they were lagging and this other person. That's life. And so having that experience is so valuable. And then training people to say, we use, can't recall the exact thing, but it's a color chart. And I'm a red, okay? And somebody else is a blue and then a yellow. And so there's tons of different models that you can use. But by teaching people that diversity is to be desired, sought after, formed together. If everybody that you've got working for you, or you in your group, is the same age, same high school, same economic status, you're going to all, 3 of you could stay home because you're all going to come up with the same answers. It's critically important to have a diversity. And so, there are 3 women presidents at Harrah's, all of us in different kinds of cities. I know if I were to leave, my boss would hire another female, I believe, because he values that. And so women see things differently, races see things differently, ages see things differently, religion, the whole thing. If you're not working for a company like that, they're not going to win the competitive race. I truly believe that. And so what I don't like is somebody coming in and saying, you have X number of these and X number of those. I think that you should be well represented in those, but that is really not a diverse company. You need a company that embraces diversity and diversity of thought. And so you can come into one of our boardrooms, and we have this little we have all sorts of posters on the wall that advocate diversity and difference of idea, because I want you to disagree. In Harrah's is a company based on meritocracy. So it doesn't mean that if I say something, and it's just a stupid idea, which I have lots of opportunity to do, and somebody who just got hired and they say something is a super smart idea, we go with their idea. So you want that diversity. We also are very focused on bringing in a lot of bright talent that is not white, actually. So because the majority of management in this company, as well as every other company, is typically white. Yes?
You talk a lot about how you were headhunted away and promoted in your career, and I was just curious of what you did that got you noticed. Were you actively trying to get promoted? Did you have a key mentor?
I didn't really have a key mentor. In terms of being actively, I can recall that when my daughter graduated from middle school, the school principal gets up and she said, there's 2 really important things to remember to high school, and they will follow you the rest of your life. Show up and do your homework. And I thought, wow, when she said that, I thought, that's really insightful, because I showed up and I did my homework. And I think that we work really hard in our business because it's a 24-hour-a-day business. And so, nights and weekends, I can get a call at 3 in the morning telling me somebody just jumped off a building, which sometimes happens, seldom, but all sorts of different things. But just being prepared. And I think that in the beginning of my career, I was open to movement. So when I was at Weber State, I thought I needed I myself wanted to be promoted, so I needed to go and get a doctorate. And they were going to write the check for it, and so then I go to Denver, and somebody from New York calls. And in retail, New York, that's where it all happens, right? Like so many other things. So I took headhunter calls. At Harrah's, honestly, it was like every job I got, they came to me. And so it's one, I think you have to work for a company that believes that and it's the opportunity with luck, meets preparation, you get promoted. And in your early part of your career, if you're ambitious and you want to get out and you want to be promoted, you can't stay in the same job for a long time. So I have a guy today who works for me who's smart as anything. He graduated from Stanford, but worked for GM. And he's probably 28. And he manages my host team. He's vice president of casino marketing. And they love him. And so on Saturday, we had this big customer event, and we were like meeting all these customers. And so we had 15 minutes to eat. And we go to this one section where we have an appetizer, and we sit down, and he says, I want to know, like, this was unbelievable, tell me what I need to do to get promoted. It was like, could we talk about this any other time? But the bottom line for him, I said, you've got to move out of your job. You've got to move, you got to grow, don't stay more than 24 months in a role in the beginning. Because if you do, they're going to say, she's the accountant, she's the direct marketing person, she's the assistant school principal. And that's good if that's what you want to be. That's not what you want to be, you can't stay. And search for jobs that you're going without a net. When I went to Shreveport, the second day, I get taken to the Shreveport Chamber of Commerce. And so my boss was introducing me around. He says, great. He says, why don't you get up there and tell everyone your vision? It's like, I was like ready to tell everybody my name, not my vision. And so, you have to big opportunity for risk. The bigger the risk, the greater the reward, truly the case. And so you've got to believe in yourself. I talked to a young man, because my SVP of HR thing, I have a lot of people who come to me for career counseling. And so he said to me he wanted to move off into this other area. And I said, you seem like a guy who doesn't like to take risks. I said, don't settle. He said, but that's what I do in life. I settle. That's what I like to do. Some people want that, and they'll settle for it. And it's really not settling, because it's what they wanted. But if you want to be promoted, you just choose who you're working for. That's probably the most important thing. Choose who you're working for. And choose somebody who's okay if you're smarter than they are. Because if they, so many people in this world are threatened. And if you really have a team, a diverse team like we're talking about, I still think debits are downers, okay? That's about as much as I know about accounting. I can get through an accounting statement. But I have somebody who's a CFO who's fabulous, and he sees the world in a different way, and we battle stuff out. Choose a group that you really feel like you make a contribution yourself, and your boss is going to be there backing you. Yes?
I know this gets asked a lot, but you know, with women choosing to leave the workforce to raise families, how did you manage the demands and needs of your family and yet still advance your career so successfully?
Well, part of it is my daughter was born when I was 35, so I had a lot of years beforehand. My husband at the time stayed home with her, or she had really good babysitters, and what I would say to her, and she'll be saying to me, Mom, did you give me a shout out today? So I'll tell her, yeah, we talked about you. That, you know, if she wanted me to do something, like, you want me to drive carpool? Call my assistant, just get chilled. And she would be like, I'm in first grade. But all the stuff that's important, you know, like when you're the boss, you can get to, right? You can move around that. You know, it's a debate. You have children young, or you can have children, you know, a little bit older. Today, you see that females have caught up on the wage war, and you have to say why. Why? Because more of you are graduating than men from college, which is, you know, great. But two, you're like, people aren't coming in and out of the workforce. Imagine having a guy who, you know, every 2 years was saying, hey, I'm going to take like 4 months off. It just, granted, we're the only ones who can have children, but the bottom line is if you're not there and I can't depend upon you to complete some major big job, I'm going to choose somebody else. And with that, they're going to get attention. So I think a whole bunch of that has changed. But you really, you know, I was blessed. I had a great support system. My mom would come during the summers. I mean, it's my nephew and my daughter would play. I mean, I was really blessed with that. But it can happen to you. I mean, I almost quit. Actually, 2 years into Harrah's, I almost quit because I couldn't find the right daycare. And out of the blue, things happen, good karma. I found the best situation ever. So it's hard, I know it's hard. It's just everybody's got their own little method. Yes.
One more last question.
I was reading just a little bit about Bally's and Caesars Entertainment. And it sounded like that was a little bit of a challenge to take care of some integration and some changes that you had to deal with, and required a bit of motivation and assurance to your employees. Could you talk about how we did that?
Sure. We purchased Caesars Entertainment, so this is like, again, you know, Goliath, because people didn't think, Harrah's doesn't have a huge name in Las Vegas. We only had 2 properties, and Caesars had 4 properties in the name Caesars Palace, and it's the #1 brand internationally. People still know about Caesars Palace, and how many of you saw The Hangover? Okay, where'd that happen? That happened at Caesars Palace. And so, at any rate, we came in, and we had spent a good 6 months trying to figure out how to integrate everything. And that's when we really solidified a common revenue share and a common cost sharing for the departments. So I don't care if my host sends somebody to Caesars, even though they're not my properties, because I get credit. The compensation, the bonus system is all the same for myself and my 2 colleagues. We all get bonused on what the citywide EBITDA is. And so that's critical. And we let some people stay, some top executives stay. With Planet Hollywood's integration, this may sound, you know, difficult, but we take out the top level of management. We come in, we have our own way of doing business that is not common in the casino business, and people have a difficult time. And so what we did for Planet Hollywood is we made sure that all my folks came in, and that would mean that there were, you know, separation packages for all these others. We'll try to find them another position throughout Harrah's, but you know, business is somewhat Darwinian. And if you know the winning team and turbocharged, Planet Hollywood today is up 54% in its gaming revenues in September, which in, you know, the only place I like to look at for numbers is what's Planet Hollywood doing, because we're doing so well, because we've turbocharged that. But you have to, like, you bring your employees in. And, you know, we've had tons of meetings to try to be inspirational to the employees. And then we're doing open enrollment right now, which is health care, you know, health insurance. And so somebody said to me yesterday, oh, you know, everybody just hates this new Harrah's health plan. I said, really? Why is that? And more of the time, rather than, you know, pushing your answer, you have to ask the question, why is that? And it's because typically they don't understand it. And so it takes tons of time. It takes being on the floor and talking to people like people. And so we've tried to achieve that. I would say our strategy is not everybody's strategy, but it's a strategy that's worked for us. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's great to see you. Oops. Stay up here. Oh, wait a second. We have to pull our winning tag. Oh, look at this. Of course, the guy in business is checking it out. Yeah.
I gotta make sure I've got like 7 tickets in my
Okay. You do? Okay, we're going to say, all right, I hope whoever wins. Okay, if your last numbers are 079, who's winning? 079. You lucky guy. All right. So you, what was your name?
Ray Beckett.
Ray, hi. I'm going to give you a business card and you're going to call.
All right.
Okay? Yeah. Yeah. Ray, you like to have fun, right?
I do.
All right, then I'm your place. Excellent.
Ray is an emeritus faculty member.
Oh, isn't that cool? That's so neat. That's great.
On behalf of the School of Education and the School of Business, I wanted to thank you for coming. You are a remarkable blend of the two of us. Really.
I was
We
fortunate.
are very proud to call you a University of Utah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Aren't we? So thank you very much. This is not the buffet of buffets, but perhaps the basket of baskets.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
thank you
thank
so
you very
much.
much.
I
Really
appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much for doing that.
Thank you.
It's wonderful.
Okay, I'm glad it worked.
It really was.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for being here, and have a great day.
There you go.